Would you like to be somebody who knows what the key to successful problem solving is? Then listen to this entire video where I explain how without the trait of courage, you cannot solve problems because you're not even able to admit the existence of the problem in the first place. So before we get into this video, please give it a thumbs up and subscribe to my channel if you'd like to learn more about self-development, dating, Jungian psychology, and how to reduce suffering in life. Let's get into it. Okay, so out of all characteristics within humans, I think I've been able to distill the characteristic that is most valuable, which can deliver most utility in your personal life and in society in general. And that is the trait of problem solving, the ability to solve problems. Why is it the most important trait? Because the most fundamental issue or problem that humans face is that we suffer. You cannot get much deeper than that, and I'm happy to argue or discuss any oppositions to that statement, but everything we do in life is an attempt to reduce suffering. Now, the reason why that's the most fundamental problem we face is because it threatens our survival. And obviously, as animals, we are primed to survive. That's our primordial instinct. And anything that threatens that is of highest priority to be, let's say, to be subsided, to fix, to solve. So we need to solve anything that threatens our survival. Whether it's, you go to work so you have an income to keep the problems of, dangerous neighborhoods, bad diets, cheap food is often or can be less of a lower quality and which harms your diet. These are all things that, all problems that you're unconsciously trying to solve by your day-to-day activities like doing sport, maintaining your relationships so you don't get excluded and feel lonely, and getting an income so you can buy good food and a good neighborhood or live in a good neighborhood. And problems are also the things that can make life miserable, make life not worth living. Because if you have two problems, you feel overwhelmed and you simply see life as it's just a simulation, an experience of dealing with problems. Like, where's the fun in that? Where's the value? Why would I want to live a life like that? Hence, it's super important to solve problems in order to overcome nihilism. So more specifically, the trait that is important for problem solving, if we take it one step further, is courage. The courage of problem solving. Because you can break down problem solving into the 3 steps, which is very often, I think, underestimated by a lot of people who teach, problem solving. Problem solving is sort of like a classic sort of, skill demanded by employers, or when you're getting a new job, they look for, what are your problem solving skills like? And it's always the same stuff like, communication, and that's important, obviously, but they're missing something super important. The process which I would categorize problem solving is the following: acceptance, locating the problem, solving the problem. What is acceptance? Before you can solve a problem, you first have to admit it even exists in the first place. Then you have to locate the problem, because that one shouldn't underestimate the difficulty of locating a problem. That takes conscious thinking and deducing where the problem lies. And that's important because problems are idiosyncratic, they are very authentic, and the likelihood of you randomly coming up with a solution that will fit and actually solve the problem is quite low, because you need a solution that is tailored, that is customized to the problem. And finally, then you can actually go and try to solve the problem. Okay, but let's dive into the acceptance. The foundation of successful problem solving rests upon the courage to even admit and accept that a problem exists in the first place. If you lack the courage to admit there's a problem, the entire prospect of solving the problem and improving the situation at hand is decimated in an instant. And this is why. If you first of all don't accept that a problem exists, you're not going to look for the problem. or like to locate the problem. And as I said, if you can't locate it, you can't solve it. But if you can't even accept that it's there, you're not going to go and look to solve the problem. Because if you're not saying, okay, I have a problem at hand, you just ignore the problem and continue living, it's not going to solve itself. It requires attention. You need to attend yourself to the problem for it to be solved. It's not gonna vanish by itself. So if you don't have the courage to first even admit that it's there, you don't know where it is, but it's even there, there's no hope for you to even look for the problem, to locate it, and then solve it. That's why it is key. It's of priority to accept that a problem even exists. And don't underestimate how difficult that is, but I'll get to that in a second. Okay, so why does problem solving require courage? Because admitting an issue is at hand is rather painful. First of all, it hurts your ego. If you admit you have problems at hand, it's sort of, people might interpret that as, oh, if I have problems in my life, maybe my competency is questionable. Maybe I'm questionable as a human being because if I was competent, if I was valuable, if I was conscious, if I was switched on, then I wouldn't have problems, but I seem to have them, hence there must be a problem with me. One should not think like, I'm definitely, I have thought like that myself for sure. I know I already have an example, but I'm not going to mention it right now because that's for a different topic. But it hurts your ego, especially if you would tell it, discuss it with people around you, because you'd feel judged. But this is not what I really want to dive into. I more want to dive into is that it requires confrontation, and confrontation is painful because confrontation with a problem generates friction, because you experience discomfort when you're engaging with a problem that's threatening your survival, exaggerated, but in some sense true. It's threatening your well-being. That's a bit more, palatable, I would say. It's friction, because obviously if the problem is threatening your well-being, it's of a unwanted nature. You don't want to face it. It's because it's threatening your well-being. It's something dark. It's something uncomfortable. It's something nasty. You don't like it, and having to face that's confrontation. But I came up with this, but I think it's kind of cool, this idea. Where there is friction and energy, there is progress and growth. Without friction and energy, there is no progress nor growth. For example, you do not learn and grow by exclusively hanging around with people who agree with you on all topics. If you only hang around with these people, you create a bubble. You create a bubble of opinions. You're always just discussing this is the way life works, this is how people behave, this is the the map of reality. But the problem is, the map of reality you have is always insufficient. It requires updates. But if you always hang out with the same people, you're not going to be able to update your map, because nobody's going to confront your map of reality and criticize it. What you need you need feedback on your map of reality and your opinions and your belief system. You need that to progress and grow. So it's important to expose yourself to people with diverse opinions, to challenge your opinion and incorporate their feedback into yours to make your map of reality more sophisticated and more robust. But the thing with confrontation is it's painful, and people can in return actually result to sort of willful ignorance, where you consciously choose to turn a blind eye, to avoid confronting the problem at hand. So the issue with that is, I don't want to go into too much depth because that's really a topic for another video. But the thing is, you can be consciously ignorant. You can choose to look away and not face the problems or accept the problems in your life. So your consciousness can do that. But your unconscious, you can never be unconsciously ignorant, which I just came up with also recently. You can never be unconsciously ignorant. Your unconsciousness, your unconscious mind will let you know that it's unhappy about your your choice to run away from your problems. It cannot be ignorant. It's like it runs autonomously and interprets the world autonomously without any ego, without any ability for ignorance. It just knows, and it will communicate to you if you're dissociating from what it thinks is true it'll communicate to you by symptoms of, negative emotions, suffering, pain. So, yeah. So that's a reason maybe why it's better to just try and practice bravery in facing problems. Yeah. So in conclusion, problem solving, I would say, is the most valuable trait in society for any human being to deliver to society, because it is the process by which you reduce the thing that threatens the well-being of people, the survival of people the most, which is, problems created by, problems that create suffering, that threaten your well-being, that are suffering, basically. Society, humanity needs problem solvers. But before you can become a problem solver, you first need to be able to accept that problems exist and are at hand, and that requires courage and bravery, because you need to admit that life is suboptimal, that maybe you've done something wrong in the past. You need to concede, you need to really admit, and that's a difficult thing, because that is the courage entails consciously engaging in pain and confrontation, which obviously humans prefer not to do. So, in conclusion, practice courage, practice engaging in the pain within you. And I don't want to make it sound like it's easy, because I think I have done a lot of it in the past, but it'll take a chunk out of you. It is difficult. I don't want to sugarcoat it whatsoever, even though it's I call it the best trait for someone to have, but there's a reason why it's the best trait also, because it filters. Not everybody can act that out, because there's a natural filter, a natural sort of, how do you call it, a process of discrimination for those people who are able to engage in the pain, and it discriminates against those who are not able to engage in the pain. Yeah. So please leave a comment below whether you think my idea of courage in problem solving is legitimate, or whether it's palatable or not, or whether you think there are other traits that make problem solving more important, or other traits that are more necessary for successful problem solving. So I hope you enjoyed this video. Please give it a thumbs up and subscribe to my channel if you'd like to learn more about self-development, dating, Jungian psychology, and how to reduce suffering in life. Thank you for listening.